everyone, namaste and welcome to the Sattology channel. My name is Sonali and I'm learning currently this Hindu scriptures very scrutinizingly from the past few years. I follow Hindu religion and today we have here with us Mr. Aditya Satsangi, and we will discuss more about like this Hindu scripture and the book he had written recently, which is Sattology, Rebuke Mythology, which is based on this Mahabharata, one of the epic of this Hindu religion. So let's talk to Mr. Satsangi. Welcome, Mr. Aditya Satsangi. Welcome here. Um, and I'm really grateful that you had the time to talk and discuss to our audience and tell more about your book here. So thank you again.
Thank you.
My first question to you is Mahabharata is like this is so famous epic, and so many writers, so many people had already written commentary on it. The original Sanskrit Mahabharata is also available. It is written in many languages, English language, Indian languages. So, what was the need of another book based on that same story? So, how is your book different? What is it that forced you to write down one more book based on the same story?
Mahabharata is an ocean, and there are many translations available. And first of all, I don't call my book as a translation because I am not doing that. It's already done by Gita Press. I think that's the most authentic source of Mahabharata.
Mhm,
I read Mahabharata and Ramayana from the historical perspective
mhm,
because I believe that history binds people together. And
mhm,
Mahabharata is the biggest source of integration. And the purpose of my writing is that also the Western academicians and the Western scholars have completely rejected Vedic history as a mythology.
mhm,
And so I am the defender of Mahabharata. So I am
mhm,
not a um, creator. Is Vyasadev, creator of Vyasadev. Vyasadev is the original author of Mahabharata, and
mhm,
Ganesh ji is the writer of Mahabharata, and I am just a defender against all the attacks on Mahabharata history. And while doing so, I'm taking out interesting things which a human mankind can use from Mahabharata.
mhm,
In my first book, that's the whole purpose of the first book was debunking mythology, because this mythology is a tag which makes Mahabharata looks like any other novel or any other entertainment book which people can read, but it's not so important. That's the message we get with that tag. So what I did was I created a term called Sattology, which is a reverse or a true antonym of mythology. And the purpose was to defend Mahabharata with the term Sattology. Now, Mahabharata is a book written by the very intelligent man, Ganeshji, and a very intelligent author, Vyasadeva.
mhm,
It's a history, and and the beauty about Vedic literature is it's very well documented.
mhm,
No other literature in the world is as well thoroughly documented as Vedic literatures. Like for example, I tell you
mhm,
that I have been superimposing Mahabharat's map on today's world map.
mhm,
And Mahabharat book was compiled just 5,000 years back
mhm,
as a history of the whole planet.
mhm,
And I see that the and Mahabharata is unique in a way that it gives territorial pointers. So I'm able to relate to cities, current cities in India. I'm able to relate to current cities in Middle East. I'm able to relate to current lands in Siberia, and so I'm putting them together so that we first of all we destroy this tag of mythology.
mhm,
And in while doing so, sometimes you have to point out the Western author's fault as well. So because they tag us mythology, I have to
mhm,
see whether they were true or not.
mhm,
And I have completely debunked Greek history, and I consider it. I called Alexander as the mouse, and I
mhm,
said it in many places. Alexander the mouse. and 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 to go deeper into it, they purposely call Vedic history as mythology, and they
Mm-hmm.
call people who follow mythology as uneducated people. So Indians like Macaulay and Max Muller call Indians as uneducated, dark, very racist overtones for the Indians, which is
Mm-hmm.
definitely not true. And that psychology is still persisting in the Western audience,
Mm-hmm.
where when they see an Indian, they take the humility of Indians as a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And Indians also think that, and when the people from this great culture, Sanatan Dharma culture, they meet with the Western, they have that ideological uh, weakness in their mind, where they think they are somewhat superior, inferior to the
Mm-hmm.
British or British taught people, or even the coconuts. I call them coconuts, like Indian people with the brown skin and the white inside. So thought process. So they feel inferior. Anyone speaking English, they feel inferior. And so I wanted to give pride to our own people who follow this culture, that your mother tongue is the best mother tongue because you are very close to Sanskrit, and
Yeah.
all the intelligent books are written in Sanskrit, not in English.
Yeah.
English is the language, it's like it's a funny language, at the same time incomplete and scientifically not relevant today. Sanskrit is still again getting relevant. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the whole purpose of writing this book. To summarize, I can always say that to remove the mythology tag, to increase the confidence of Indians in their own
Mm-hmm.
history, and of all South Asian, because this Mahabharata is a history of the entire world, but all South Asians. And then because somehow they have been told that their faith is inferior, they're idol worshippers. So all those things I have removed. So no idol worshippers tag, no mythology tag, no dark skin, ugly looking people, because so I've removed that tag in my first book.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you so much. So there is a lot in this book that, like, we should all read, and I know it's available on Amazon, and I'm really looking forward to read it. Because when you are saying that, like, confidence in Indian, because I'm studying this scriptures very scrutinizingly over like past few years, few things are little bit inconceivable, like you need a base like a faith. So that is the problem, I guess. So we will discuss today a couple of characters from Mahabharata, and we will see that like how so many things about this character seems to be mythology, but I would like to know that how well you had written about it in your book. I mean, what part should consider while reading about these characters. So we will take, like, first character from this Mahabharata. He's a hero of the Mahabharata, uh, Sri Krishna. And so birth, and then, like, when he was infant, he killed demons, and then so many heroic acts, and then so many things are written about him, like on Kurukshetra war also, he was able to kind of hide sun for some time. So many these things, it seems like, little bit mythology when someone new is listening for the first time. So how you have described it in your book? I mean, I'm very much interested in
Yeah. So very, very good question, and it will require a little bit more detailed answer. So
that.
Krishna is a historical personality. So we
Mhm.
have to see him as a historical personality. Krishna is more real than any other mythological character from the Abrahamic faiths.
Mhm.
The reason I say is that, first of all, his birth
Mhm.
is documented as the positioning of the stars, astrology.
Mhm.
Star movement is a mathematically precise movement. So when
Mhm.
somebody says that in this particular constellation, in this particular era, at this time this person was born, you can exactly make out when he was born and where he was born.
Mhm.
It's almost like getting a GPS navigational pinpointer to the exact location. And if any miscalculation is there, that
Mhm.
means that the event never happened. So
Mhm.
Krishna is exactly his constellation, his time of birth, and his location of birth exactly matches the description in the book. So that is the first verification that he was a historical personality.
Mhm.
The second verification of the historical personality is the archaeological findings.
Mhm.
All independent archaeologists who are not Hindus have
Mhm.
confirmed his place of birth, his his movement, and his palace in the ocean, Dwarka. It has been independently confirmed by National Geographic.
Mhm.
So so that these two verifications are one of the most powerful verifications. Number three, his presence at different times in different events of his life while he was present.
Mhm.
Like he was present in a particular lunar eclipse in Kurukshetra.
Mhm.
That lunar eclipse was an accurate event which astrologists have confirmed. His presence near the Saraswati River in Haryana, in India, at one location, at a particular type of the lunar eclipse shows that yes, that place exists even now, and that place has is a memorial dedicated to him. Uh, so these are the archaeological evidences plus the astrological evidences combined make him look like a real historical personality.
Wow. Yeah.
Now that makes him a historical person. Now contrast that with the characters from other faiths like Muhammad or Jesus.
Uh-huh.
Nothing is known about them. Nothing. Practically, even their birth records are not known. Their astrological, Arabs were nomads. They had no science, nothing. So India was always the hub of the science. So those nomads had no idea where he was born, where
Mhm.
he lived, what did he do? No, practically no idea. So
Mhm.
that's mythology because that's an imposition. Where Krishna has been independently confirmed by non-Hindus to be a historical personality,
Wow. Yeah.
and none of their faiths are confirmed by they can only comment on their faith. They've never allowed them to be
No.
scrutinized.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So therefore, because they have not allowed themselves to be scrutinized, so therefore scientifically it still remains an hypothesis for both Jesus and Muhammad and any of the personalities from their Old Testament, New Testament, and Quran. So that's why it should give us more faith and confidence in our literatures that yes, our history has been independently, scrutinizingly verified,
Right.
and therefore it's a valid case to have faith in Krishna.
Wow, great answer. And it is so true. I have heard so many times that, like, the Dwarka, some of the parts they're still finding. There are, like, pearls and everything coming out of oceans. I've only heard, but then it's so great to know. I mean, about even the as you're saying that, like, other faith or other people can also confirm that, like, he a personality is a historical personality. So thank you so much for that wonderful
In
answer.
fact, I have the exact dimensions of Dwarka, how long and how wide the Dwarka was. So if the Archaeological Society of India wants to prove it, then we can give them that number.
Wow, that's great. That is, thank you for studying and so detail about this our history. Um, Now about the couple of more characters, like we hear about the birth of Pandavas, like all these five Pandavas and Karna. They are like gifted by the demigods, and this is something it is very difficult when you are talking with your children how to convince them, or how you can, people who are like believe so much in science and all that, like how can you convince them about this thing that, like, demigods coming here. I mean, I always compare it with the Greek history and say that, oh, you're having Percy Jackson and all those characters and son of God, and so something like that. But that's not the right thing. I know for sure that, like, ours is like more oldest. I mean, Vedic culture is there forever. And how will you how can you convince audience about the birth of the spy Pandavas?
First of all, about Greek history is a real mythology,
Hmm.
and because it's a fake narration written on the
Mhm.
basis of Vedic history. The
Yeah.
reason is that 400 BC, Greeks were
Mhm.
speaking Sanskrit,
Mhm.
and Greeks were taking all the information from Indian traders, and therefore they came up with the 12 gods from Dwadash
Mm,
Aditya. They
mm,
knew that there is Dwadash Aditya and there are
mm,
12 principal gods in Hindus, 12 forms of Surya, and so
mm.
therefore they came up with that version.
So
And
wait a minute. So it's not completely myth. I mean, they had taken something from our culture and which they are now selling it with some different name. We can say that way. I mean,
no,
instead.
no, it's a myth because they distorted the original version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anything distortion, myth means lie. So anything
Mm,
distortion over the original version is a myth. And they create their own characters. It's almost like cartoon characters. Like the Disney creates cartoon characters, that's exactly they did. And they call it Olympus and Olympians. 12 original Olympians were the 12 Greek gods. Now,
mm, mm,
coming to the question that you asked about the Pandavas,
mm,
now same historical veracity or scrutinizingly has been done for each of the Pandavas. Now,
mm,
one thing we must accept
mm,
that in those times, so Devta is a person who lives in another planet. He has access to our planet. So
mm,
extraterrestrial you can call them, not from this planet. So
mm,
they were free travel was done, and even today that is being done. So we accept when somebody says unidentified flying object and all these things. We know that these are the extraterrestrial travel, which is
mm,
allowed to the residents of other planetary systems. Today's science is not developed to prove that, but
mm,
in older times, I don't say the science was evolved, but I would say the other people used to visit us more. But
mhm,
now the standard of the planet has gone down so much that they
mhm.
don't want to come here. So that's where we should say it. Now
Wow.
the second part where I'll say the exact location of Pandava's birth is mentioned in Mahabharata. We have that. There's astrological calculations of each of those birth is also recorded. We have that. Now the third aspect is the divinity ascribed to them by
Mhm,
being born from other individuals is
mhm,
also established with the specific invocation of commands or mantras, you call them commands or mantras.
mhm,
So it was the science known to the people in that time to invoke people from other planets to come to our planets, to invite them, and the travel was almost assured. And with those things, these people were born. So it's not a fake history. Like for example, I say the Rome's founder Romelius, he was brought up by a pair of wolves,
mm,
and
mm,
most of the most of the world accepts that.
mm,
But I
mm,
call it a mythology because wolves have never taken care of a small baby. Wolves will eat up the small baby. That's mythology. That is not that exaggeration is not there in Mahabharata stories.
mhm.
Okay, so you can see
Okay.
the stark difference between wolves taken care by
Mhm.
the wolves and the human,
Yeah. Mm,
and the problem of accepting that they were children of higher beings.
mhm,
That is some reality that we all have to humbly accept, that
mhm,
today, even though we may be thinking that we have, just because we have better telecommunication power and everything, but still some other people, some other communities and some other planets have better technology than us, and
mm.
so they think that we are still inferior. So here I think that an element of faith comes in, uh,
Yeah.
but the historical archaeological evidence of Pandava's birth is well documented,
Mm. Okay. Thank you.
and
Thank you.
it's not there in any other. No other culture has that kind of documentation, because
Mm,
most of the other cultures are so primitive. Even today,
mm,
they don't accept astrology. They don't
mm.
accept astronomy. So they
Right.
have to make astronomy outside their faith so that
Right.
they can practice it. But we have astronomy included in our faith,
Mm.
Ayurveda included in our faith.
Included.
So that makes it us more complete in terms
Right.
of a system.
Right. Right. Wow. Great. And I hope that will be very helpful to, while talking to our children about our history and Ramayana and Mahabharata. So thank you so much. So, um, one more character like Bhim. So in the story of Mahabharata, it is told that like they went to the people like demonic people. They met with the demonic people and being married to Hidimba, and there is their son Ghatotkacha and all. So how is this? These are facts. I mean, like demonic people means how will you define them? Like they were having like so much power that like the sun was so huge and all that. So
Right.
how can you talk about it, or have you mentioned anything about this in your book? I mean,
Yeah,
any.
it's coming in my other books, but it's a good question. So the uh, we have not seen everything. We have not seen everything of human race,
Hmm.
and even today there are people who are extremely powerful physically.
Hmm.
We might see them sometimes in Olympic Games and some other games, but we even today we see extremely powerful people. To
Hmm.
imagine that someone can be as powerful as Beam, it's I think it's a matter of extrapolation a little bit, where we have to see that we cannot if you are with a scientific bent of mind, you cannot rule out any possibility. That's
Hmm.
the first criteria of a scientific analysis, is that you cannot rule out any possibility. So if there are few things existing which are beyond our power, beyond our reasonable understanding of power, then there is possibility that yes, that strength existed. Now,
Hmm.
now, now we have to back it up with some proof, historical proof. So we have
Hmm.
already verified that Mahabharata is an exact account of the history of during those times or before. Now,
Hmm.
in the same Mahabharata, there are historical references, exact location of the places where these incidents happened, and there are archaeological evidences. Some of them have been deliberately removed by
Hmm.
certain Islamic and Christian bodies, but
Hmm.
generally they have been preserved. The foot size of beam is there. The when he's lying down on the body on the stone, that size is there
Hmm.
now, and those locations where those incidents happen are still there. So
Hmm.
with those historical accounts, we can his birth is already proved because of
Right.
we already discussed that. Now, because of those archaeological evidences and historical evidences, yes, these incidents did happen. Now, now, how did Hidimba look like, and what did his son Gutierrez look like? That is also mentioned in detail. That what how did she look like? And there are people with those kind of physical uh, attributes. May not be in India, but maybe somewhere else.
Hmm.
So, therefore, we have to combine all these evidences as circumstantial evidences and
Hmm.
conclude that yes, this existed. And we can safely conclude that yes, it happened.
Hmm.
Because I can tell you the Ghatotkach was given
Hmm.
the region of Indonesia, southern Burma, Malaysia,
Hmm.
this region. Because he used to hop from island to island. That's what he did. So when Rastriya Yajna was happening, he hopped from the Tamil Nadu to Lanka for
Oh.
Seth,
Hmm.
and he was helping Sadev in his mission on
Hmm.
south. So with all conclusiveness, we can say that that is not mythology.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. So how true it is like when people send some picture saying that, oh, we found this like very huge skeleton. This might be, Ghatotkaч skeleton, and then someone says that, oh, it's a digital, something like that. Are there any evidences that like we found a skeleton or something like that? Have
Yeah,
you heard about it?
generally, old times the peoples were much taller, and
Mm,
people were much taller, and so in other ages. So sometimes we find skeletons of those people, but
mm,
specifically Ghatotkach's skeleton, I don't think so. You can find it
mm,
because he did not. Uh, the exact place of mention of his death is not mentioned. And in Vedic culture, generally the people were burnt, not
mm.
not buried. So you will
Right.
not find them to be buried somewhere.
Mm,
So these skeletons are mostly from the general group of people who were that tall during that time.
mm, mm.
And so any kind of skeletal evidence is, I don't think so. It's time to comment on it right now.
Mm, right. Okay. No problem. So, like that, there are many questions about many more characters, like Draupadi and his brother Drishtadyumna, how they appeared from the like fire god. But as you mentioned about Pandava, then like we should take it like literally as it is, and not like as if it is symbolic or you know
Yeah,
sometimes people take it as a symbolic that like
yeah,
that body is like a Kurukshetra and then like five Pandavas, like five senses. So I heard so many times, but they don't take it as a history. So
yeah,
it makes a lot of difference, like when you say history, what you can learn from it,
yeah.
versus if you take it as a symbolist, what you
You
can
can't
learn.
learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
today, I can also prove that Abraham Lincoln never existed. It's very easy to prove he never existed. Or Mahatma Gandhi did not exist. It's easy to prove that or to create doubts. But we all know from facts, from pictures, from historical location where he lived, where he talked, that yes, he did exist. So accepting Mahatma Gandhi as someone who lived in the past is also a matter of faith
Mm,
guided by the literatures and the pictures. Same thing ascribes to our history that
mm,
when we say these characters drop the another, so we have to rely on on someone better than us or
mm.
trustworthy than us. So when
Right.
Ganesh is writing it and
Mm,
Vyasdev is writing it, so there is a matter of like today if you go to any a car to buy a car. So if the car mechanic says something about the car, you have to trust him. It's a matter
right.
of faith. So
Yeah.
he's the best person to tell you.
Yeah.
Similarly, when Vyasadeva and Ganesh are saying that this happened, who
Mm,
the same logic applies. We have to extend the same logic that yes, it did exist because somebody very reliable is telling us. They have
mm.
no time to waste in telling fictional stories.
Right.
Now,
Right.
if you go for the Greek history, the purpose of the writing the Greek history was political conquest. So they made up stories for political conquest because they could not counter Chandragupta Maurya's solid historical background.
Mm, mm.
That's why they had to come up with the Olympian story. That was the main reason. And
No.
the Romans had to come up with their own story because otherwise the Greeks won't accept them. So
Mm,
Greek had to invent a story because in Chandragupta Maurya's won't accept him, and the Romans had to invent a story because Greeks won't accept it. So indirectly, all their mythology is based on Indian Sattology.
mm, that's so true. I know that you're writing your new book is based on the Chandragupta Maurya, and we are really looking forward to it. So before ending this, like we talk about so many characters. Now let's see that like in Mahabharata it is written that like Nakul went to like west side and. You said that Arjuna went to north side, and as far as like you can imagine, so all these things, I mean, those time, I mean, there were no aeroplanes. I mean, that's what is our understanding. But then, can you enlighten us, like on horse, like they were riding horses, all that. How far they went, and like, can you like before ending this interview, enlighten us that like how much part was covered? I mean, till what length they went? I mean, all these Pandavas in all directions.
So it's a particular episode is mentioned in Mahabharata when Yudhishthir was conducting his Ratsya Yagya. So Arjun was sent to conquer the north direction. Nakul was sent to conquer the west direction. Because and Sahadev was sent to conquer the southern direction from
Mm-hmm.
Hastinapur, and Bhim was sent to the east from Hastinapur.
Mm-hmm.
So these were the four directions in which Yudhishthir Maharaj sent.
And Hastinapur is like current what Delhi?
Yeah, little south of Delhi.
Okay,
So it's the southwest of Delhi.
okay.
And so the Hastinapur, if you drew the straight line up from
Mm-hmm.
Hastinapur to all the way till the Siberia,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you just calculate the distance, and the average horse speed can be around from long distance can be 20 kilometers an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So at best you can say 20 or 15 kilometers an hour or 20. It can be more because sometimes in a day they go non-stop for many. So in a span of 50 to 60 days on horseback you can reach Siberia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way with Nakul. For Nakul, the travel was a little bit easier because he went all the way till Israel, which is which is the coast. He went all the way there, Saudi Arabia and Israel, because Nakul was from the area called Syria today. It's called Madhya Desh.
Mm,
And Bhima went all the way to the east until Cambodia. He went all the way that far and came
mm,
back. And similarly, Sahadev went to the south, which he go to Sri Lanka and then some islands, and then
mhm,
came back. This is how the four directions were met. It's all covered in my next book coming out. So if you see the movement of horses and the cavalry, you will see
mhm,
it's not very difficult. It's all one land connected everywhere. The only thing which is disconnected from most of this is USA, North America. But
mm,
Alaska, it is very easy to approach it.
mm,
So if you see the historical study of the populations in North America, most of
mm,
the original population of North America is from Asia. And you'll wonder why. Why
mm,
is it from Asia? So they look like us. If you look at Native Americans, they look like Hindus, they look like Indians, their facial features are like Indians. If you go, so they from the tip of Alaska to the tip of South America south is just
mhm,
14,000 miles, not more than that.
mhm,
Now 14,000. Now if you travel within the US from top to down is around 2,000 miles, or around 1,500 miles. If you come on the horseback 2,000 miles, it will take you, if you go through a simpler way, then it will take you maximum 30 days to cross US. 20 to 30.
mhm, mm,
So it's not a big deal to travel on horses across the world. Planes are a very recent invention, but this world has been connected far too long. Boats have been always there, and the whole theory of the Western theory of how Columbus discovered India. No, actually, India discovered Columbus and Europe much before that.
mm,
We were conquerors, like the Indian Chandragupta Maurya ruled entire Europe. So
mm,
so that's a so the, so I think it was a foolish attempt by
mm,
somebody without a job, Vasco da Gama turning to India. He was a
mm,
jobless guy, homeless guy trying to discover India.
mm,
So there is a I don't see a sign of intelligence from the spiritual point of view
mm,
that when everything is known, you can easily approach India through land.
mm,
Then why to go through the sea?
mm,
So
mm,
this is like a wastage of somebody's life and time.
mm, mm,
On that basis, on logical, archaeological basis, we can reject the
mm,
Western idea of mythology on India.
mm, mm. Yeah. Thank you so much. We learned so much from today's episode, and we hope to see you again. And I mean, it is like sometimes it's inconceivable because it's like we think about with whatever is our current situation, like all this history we are trying to understand all these characters through our mind and our current situation, and sometimes it's hard to conceive that all. But as you said that like if you keep like little bit, you increase your faith, and if then you try to look it as a history, you can learn so much from this character, how they to make this world a better place, what
Right.
sacrifices they had done, and that is why today we are like comfortably living this life. So we should thank them all, and thank you so much for studying all this about this history and all the scripture and bringing it like as a Sattology in front of whole world. So I'm really glad you had time today, and like we got to discuss about it. So thank you so much. I'll see you again.
Thank you. Thank you.